We'll call the meeting to order, and the first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. We'd all stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice
justice
for all.
for all. The next item is approval of minutes from the regularly scheduled August 5, 2020 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Ralph, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by, was that Lou?
That was Lou.
Thank you.
You're
Any
welcome.
changes, errors, or omissions to the minutes? If not, all in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is approval of the agenda and acceptance as presented. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make the motion to approve. Ralph will make the motion to approve the agenda.
Thank
I'll
you, Ralph.
second.
Seconded by Lou.
Lou will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is communications, and we do have some guests here tonight. Kathy Heron is going to start, and she has information from Complete Streets. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you, Susan. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you. My name is Kathy Heron. I live at 23 Old Homestead Village in Portland. So despite COVID, CSG has been working on a few things. Not as many as we had hoped for 2020, but we have a couple items to bring to you tonight. So the first is a bike route for the in-town, a shorter, easier bike route than the 17-mile one that you approved a year or two ago and installed bike route signs for. By the way, we've gotten very good feedback on the longer, more challenging route, especially during the hot days of summer, but we're excited to develop one for the more casual cyclists and or families. So we've been through many iterations looking for the safest route in town, mostly on the side streets, but where it does go on Main Street, certainly cyclists could go on the sidewalk if they felt that was safer. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Amanda Arce, who's one of the CSG members, who's going to talk about the route. And did everyone receive an e-copy of the route today from Susan?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Hopefully you've had a little chance to look at it. So Amanda, I'll turn it over to you.
Hello. Thank you, Kathy. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Hi,
we can-
Amanda.
Okay.
Yes, we hear
All
you.
right, just let me know if it doesn't, because it does get a little spotty with the headphones. Yeah, so as Kathy said, Alice and I had come up with, Alice Schumacher had come up with, just something that was more family friendly. I mean, I am not an avid cyclist, but I do like riding. So I really wanted something that was going to take advantage of the flat streets that we have on the west and the east side of Main Street. So as you can see in the copies that I sent you, I did break it up in terms of color. If it was going to overlap, if any arrows were going to overlap, or any direction was going to overlap on a street, I changed the color of the arrow. I thought it was easiest to cross at crosswalks. So right over at Biz on Fairview Street, when you're crossing, it starts at the police station. How about we start there? It starts at the police station, and it goes down Main Street, and then it does go down Middlesex Avenue, and then Middlesex Avenue extends, and it kind of loops around Brazos, comes down Pratt Street, then back up, it goes up Co Avenue extension, down Co Ave, and then down Main Street. And then it goes down Russell Avenue, which then goes back over Middlesex Avenue, and then back down, or Middlesex Avenue extension, sorry, and then down Middlesex Avenue. And then I thought the easiest way where it was going to be the safest to cross back over Main Street was going to be at Freestone Avenue, at that crosswalk and that light. So then that's when we go on the east side of Main Street, going down all the way Freestone Ave, then down Cross Street. Then you're going to take a left onto Foley, and you're going to avoid that down, where you're going to take a left onto Fair Street, and then down Highland Avenue, it turns into Homestead Avenue. And then you're going to take that left all the way down East Main Street. You get that nice long road, long flat road. And then you're going to hook it onto Freestone Ave, and then back down on Main Street where it ends back at the police station. So it's a nice ride. Like I said, it really took advantage of the flat streets. And then we really tried, especially you have kids that are going to be riding on training wheels. We wanted to make sure that there was sidewalk that they could follow along if their parents were on the bike route or path or on a flat road. So
It's very nice.
thanks.
I like
Can
it.
you hear me at all?
Yes, we can, Alice.
I can't seem to get visual, but if you can hear me. I did this route 3 times yesterday, and I ran into people who said, oh, it's very safe here. Oh, what a good idea. So that I just wanted to say that. And I think we'll have community support. I've already seen lots of kids on those roads.
Yep.
So I think the big question we have is we need signs.
Right.
And we've tried to minimize them. But actually, now you came up with some we only needed arrows. Amanda?
Say that again.
You said some of the signs we only needed arrows.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really wasn't sure exactly where we needed like a bike route sign with like the bicycle on it. But I figured any long straightaways is probably best. So I figured 3 tops in this whole thing. So maybe down like Middlesex Avenue, like in the middle, maybe down the long straightaway of Freestone, maybe even the long straightaway of East Main Street. But honestly, I could just maybe at the very beginning, since we were thinking of maybe making it a different color because it's an alternate route.
Right.
So maybe starting a bike route sign there, and then just the rest of it being arrows. It does get kind of tricky over, we're crossing Main Street at Brownstone Intermediate School, because it's like you're taking a left and then you have to take another left to go down Middlesex Avenue. So there's going to be a couple of arrows, but I think it'll be fine if we just limit it to 1. So I kind of counted like 20 arrows and maybe 2 or 3 of the bike route signs.
That's about what I came up with also.
Yeah, and most of them should be able to be on like a stop sign or a sign that's already there.
Yes.
So.
That's something we can work on. I think the route is great. Are you thinking about putting it on our website?
For sure, yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
That would be great. Any comments from the selectmen?
Yeah, this is Ralph. I would say it's pretty impressive because to try to come up with 4 miles essentially on a flat stretch in Portland is pretty difficult. So I think this kind of encompasses the areas that we kind of consider safer. In fact, even for our Park and Rec 5K, we've shifted down into that area, staying off the main drag. So
Yep.
part of this course also takes advantage of that. So I thought it's a really, I think, a good course, especially for families.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan, if I could say something else.
Sure, Kathy.
So I think in developing this route, Amanda and Allison, our committee, certainly it's highlighted, I'll say, the challenges of our streets, and all of you are familiar with them, and finding, safe streets. We have very few official bike lanes, as I'm sure you know, which are 5-foot width shoulders that would be safe for cyclists. So I think it just highlights our activism and our initiatives to really make our community a safer cycling pedestrian area. And I hope that this is, another point, another feather in our cap that we can do this and that we continue to make our streets safer for everyone.
And I want to say, while not all of these streets necessarily have sidewalks, many of them do have some of our new sidewalks. So it would be safe for youngsters where the sidewalks are. They could carefully ride their bikes on the sidewalk. And then those areas that don't have sidewalks, they're lightly traveled by cars. And I think it's a great route for family friendly.
Very good.
Thank you.
So Susan, what would be the next steps if we wanted to ask the town to purchase the signs and have them installed? Bob Shea was fantastic for the last route, so I didn't know what I should do next.
Yeah, and Bob is on this call listening. So I would say probably after Labor Day, if we could confer again, get in touch with me, and maybe we can do just a conference call to determine the placement. And in the meantime, certainly if you had suggestions, I know Amanda and Alice have done this route, and you have too probably, Kathy. So
Yes.
maybe come up with some suggestions, mark it on the map, send it to me, and I can share that with Public Works so that we can confer with them and see what the best placement of those arrows and signs is. I'm excited. I think it's
Sounds good.
just
And
in
in the meantime, oops. In the meantime, can we promote this on Google Maps, put it on our website, or do we need to have another stamp of approval by the BOS before we do that?
well, we can ask the selectmen right now if they approve of this route. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion to approve.
All right, Mike Pelton, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Lou. Discussion. All in favor of approval of the family-friendly bike route indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank
Well
you.
done. Well done.
And just one other announcement. So CSG was working on two things. So the second is a bike ride, socially distanced on the ALT. We did one last year and it was very well received. We had 30 to 40 people come out. So Amanda suggested that we have people sign up for staggered start times between a 3-hour period so that no more than 10 would be in a group going at the same time. We won't have a leader or sweeper. We won't have refreshments. So we'll be very careful about not gathering together as a group. And this will be, we're planning for Saturday, September 26th from 12:30 to 3:30 with a rain date of the 27th. And I forgot to mention that Parks and Rec is working with CSG to plan and promote this event. So please spread the word and hope to see you.
Sounds wonderful. We'll look forward to seeing that publicity as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The second person I know has some communications. I don't know if April Graves is on the call. Okay, April, good evening. We can come back to April if she is not ready. We'll come back. The third is our town clerk. I believe you are on the call, Ryan, is that right?
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay. All right. So Ryan, I had asked Ryan to come and give an update to you in regard to the upcoming election on November 3. So welcome, Ryan.
Thank you, Susan. Do you want to read the letter that I had written, if you
Yep,
don't mind?
I can do that. Dear Selectmen, the town clerk's office and the registrar of voters are working hard to ensure a fair and transparent election come November 3rd in the town of Portland. As with the presidential preference primaries that were held last week, there are some major changes to this year's election in Connecticut. Governor Lamont signed a bill recently that allows every registered voter in Connecticut the ability to vote by absentee ballot in the presidential election. In addition, the Secretary of the State's office is planning to mail every registered voter an absentee ballot application with prepaid postage. We have been told that these applications will be mailed out in mid-September. The anticipated increase in demand for absentee ballots has the potential to cause a great strain on town clerk's offices across the state of Connecticut. To put things in perspective, in the year 2016 presidential election, Ryan's office issued approximately 550 absentee ballots. In the presidential primary that was held last week, Ryan's office issued almost 1,100 absentee ballots, which was double. I am currently estimating the need to issue between 3,000 and 4,000 absentee ballots in the month of October. Absentee ballots become available October 2. Because of this, there is a chance that Ryan's office may need funding for an additional part-time staff in order to help process applications in a timely fashion. The Secretary of the State's office has promised funding resources in the form of grants, but they have not yet provided details associated with these grants. The purpose of Ryan's writing and coming to see us tonight is to make sure the Board of Selectmen is aware of the changes, number one, also wanting to inform us of the potential need of additional support in the town clerk's office. Ryan will be attending, as he is tonight, future Board of Selectmen meetings in order to provide us with necessary updates and to answer any questions you may have. And I would add too, it gives, I think, good publicity and information to our residents to have you come, Ryan. So first, thanks for coming tonight. And if there's anything additional that you wanted to provide us with tonight.
That's everything that I had wanted to say, but I did want to make myself available to the board in case anybody had any questions about last week's primary or about the absentee ballot process or November's election.
Okay, any questions for Ryan?
Ryan, it's Mike. Lately, of course, there's been a big buzz about the upcoming election or so, and I've spoken to a number of people in town that have expressed concern about it. Is there anything that you wanted to either say to reassure or to let the citizens, whoever's listening in on this or watching it, how the process works and, the safety of it compared to what we're hearing on the, in the news?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of misinformation out there as far as the absentee ballot process goes. And you have to remember that we have 50 states in the nation, and each state has their own rules and laws in regards to absentee voting and early voting. Connecticut is not an early voting state. And so in the past, as far as absentee ballots go, you were only able to get an absentee ballot if you signed and affirmed that you would be out of town, if you were in the military or ill. There was a specific list of reasons why you could get an absentee ballot. And so because of COVID-19 for this presidential election, the state legislature and the governor has said that that is a reason enough, and that in order to keep everyone safe, people can vote by absentee ballot. So it is a very safe process. I can assure you of that. My main concern is getting the ballots to the voters in a timely manner and educating people on the process, because Mike, you're right. A lot of people don't understand the process. And so just to give you an example, I'm receiving in the mail today applications for absentee ballots for the primary that was held last Tuesday. And I have a feeling, and I've been reaching out to people because they are thinking that signing this will give them a ballot for November. And that's not the case. So I think that I need to do a better job, or I'm planning on educating the public more, but it's really the Secretary of the State's responsibility to get this word out. Part of the reason why I'm coming to you now is because we just have been informed as of Monday of the state's plan to send out applications to every registered voter. So I can go into more detail on the absentee ballot process. When you get your form in the mail, this time it's going to be tailored to you. It's going to have a barcode, and when you sign and request an absentee ballot, it comes to my office and I process that ballot. So I go into the state voter system and I look you up and I see that you have not requested one yet. And then I mail you a ballot as well as a couple additional envelopes that you then have to not only fill out and vote for your candidates, but you also sign a form attesting to the fact that it is you who is voting. So when people say there's a lot of voter fraud, does some exist? I'm sure of it, but it's a Class D felony in order to commit voter fraud, and I don't believe it. In the town of Portland, it's not a real problem. Bigger cities and bigger jurisdictions, that's above my pay grade. But in Portland, I can assure you that absentee voting is a very safe and effective process.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
I had a question, Susan,
Sure, Lou?
actually for Ryan. Ryan, I think the primary voting took about 5 or 6 days to find out who won in Portland, or was that less than that?
Well, a couple things with that, Lou. So the Secretary of the State's office, they were delayed in mailing out those applications to people. And then they were delayed. They had hired a mail house to issue ballots originally, and that mail house fell short of their expectations. And so they ended up being, the mail house was late in getting people their ballots. And so the governor made an executive order that said any ballots that were postmarked by August 11th, which was the date of the primary, any ballots postmarked by that date would still count up until Thursday. So we had an additional 2 days of mail coming in with ballots that could be counted in the election or in the primary. So the delay, and we are probably going to see a delay this year in this year's return on results, because it's not the absentee ballot process, although in Connecticut it's a fairly
Is she in the living room? Oh.
as though in Connecticut it's fairly safe, it is time consuming. So every single absentee ballot that's mailed in has 2 envelopes that need to be opened, and both of those envelopes can't be opened until election day, until 10 a.m. on election day. So this year in particular, it's going to be also a large strain on our poll workers on election day, because they're going to have to open between 3,000 to 4,000 absentee ballot envelopes twice. So that could be 8,000 envelopes. Then they have to unfold the ballots because they're folded into trifolds, and they have to straighten those out and feed them through the machine. And I know many of you have been through a recount before, so you know how time consuming it can be to feed all those ballots through the machine like that. So that will be the delay, Lou, is on election day, making sure that the ballots are into my office by 8 p.m. on election night, and also making sure that we're staffed well enough at the polls in order to handle this increased volume.
So just as a follow-up to that question, Ryan, and thank you very much for your response. If, let's say, there's no problem with the state and all the ballots are able to be distributed to you and then to the people and then back to your office, do you expect that the voting decision will be possibly in a day or 2 or less?
Yeah.
It probably won't be that night.
It's hard to say at this point, because there's so many variables out right now, and everything's been changing so much with the way in which this election's going. And once those applications start coming back and I see the kind of volume we're working with, I'll have a better estimate. But I do know our poll workers are very efficient. They'll be staffed properly, and they'll get it done. They were able to feed. We had 1,000 ballots for last week, and they were able to handle that. So, you know, we should have final results on election night, but it just might come at 11 o'clock instead of 8:20.
Okay, thank you very much, Ryan.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Ryan tonight? I wanted to point out, Ryan, and thank our registrars, Athena Neville and Pauline Newman. I thought they did really a remarkable job with the slight change in the voting venue from the band chorus room to the middle school cafeteria at 93 High Street. I know I've gotten a lot of compliments from the voters, and the traffic flow, excuse me, people entering and leaving was really well done. So the better prepared we are, the better the situation is for all of our voters. So thanks for coming and getting us prepared, and we look forward to working with your office as well as with our registrars and our poll workers to make sure everybody in Portland gets an opportunity to vote, and to vote in a way that is comfortable and fair to all. So thank you.
Thank you, and I'll be back. So thanks, guys.
Okay. The next item, and I know Bob Shea is on the call with us, wanted to point out to the selectmen the really enormous job that we're doing, and a tremendous job that is going on in terms of the cleanup from the storm we had on August 4th. And I wanted to update you a little bit about brush. I've gotten some complaints. In particular, I received one this week whereby the family that called asked specifically if they could bring their brush beyond the date of tomorrow. Today was the last day you could bring your brush for no cost, no questions asked. And part of that has to do with our staffing and also the volume of material that has been coming in. We made the determination at Town Hall and at the transfer station that today would be the last day that you could bring in your brush without any additional cost, without being weighed, and so forth. We felt that would be 2 weeks that people would have the chance to bring their brush to the transfer station. But this particular caller wanted that to be extended. I told the caller that I would get in touch, and I have, with Public Works. And I also wanted to speak with you about this. Just to point out, in addition, there is free brush disposal going on at your curbside right now. As you know, our Public Works has, maybe you don't know, we actually are renting a special piece of equipment that is helping get the brush up off of the curbside and into the trucks. That started Monday, August 17. I know that our workers have really done a great job in getting that brush picked up, and it will be continuing likely for a total of 6 to 8 weeks before all many miles of road are addressed by our Public Works. We just point out to everybody, you have to leave enough room for the equipment to operate. You have to place your brush at least 5 feet away from your garbage container and any other obstacles like mailboxes or your fences, water meters, etc. Avoid placing your brush under low-hanging tree limbs or power lines. And remember that the brush can't be collected if it's not accessible. Please stack your piles of brush end to end or on top of one another, and make sure that they're cut to about no more than 6 to 8 feet in length, and that the diameter of the limbs does not exceed 4 inches. Please place only brush at the curb. We can't pick up lumber, construction, leaves, etc. That's not part of this pickup. So again, I just wanted to thank the selectmen, as well as thank all of our residents that are cooperative, patient, and have really done a nice job in cleaning up our town. At this point, I just want to pass it over to Bob, who has some further comments on the question that came to me this week. Bob?
Hi, Sue, can you hear me?
Yes, hear you very well. Thank you.
Okay, so we are into our cleanup about 2.5 weeks. It is a task that's incredibly labor intensive. You mentioned that we did rent a machine. We needed to do that. We do have a few machines, but it's just certainly not enough to be able to handle the volume of damage and brush that's out there to be cleaned up. We're at a state now that we've made all our roads as safe as we can prior to picking up brush. We did start a little earlier than the recommended time that the brush must be out by the curbside by the 17th, which was Monday. We have many residents that have accomplished that. We did get a few phone calls of those that were concerned that they were later in the day on Monday and that maybe we would have missed them, and that wasn't the case. We will be going back to certain areas that we started early, and those areas were started early because of the sightline issues that we had and the amount of damage in some of those areas. We wanted to remove that brush, not only for the fact that it created sightline issues, but we have other public safety issues as well that I'm very familiar with, and we want to make sure that we can access as well residents and certain areas that we know that we frequent without that issue of the brush being in an area that's going to hamper our ability to perform those tasks. So some of those areas we went at early. If we were there prior to Monday, we certainly will be coming back. The areas that we didn't, we hope not to have to do that because it's going to just add to the number of weeks it's going to take to do this, which is really going to put and play havoc on our normal schedule. We have projects that we started that we have to finish. Chip sealing is one of them. We have a very short window to get this done. Usually it's performed at the end of July and the beginning of August, and now it's going to be pushed out because of this storm into September, which it's a little difficult. We're going to have buses on the road, but we will make sure that there is no issues with those at all. They will have clear paths across those roads areas that we'll be chipping. But we have to do an awful lot of work in the next week or two to prepare for chip sealing, which is paving and making some improvements. So we're going to slow down a little bit on brush pickup and not have as many crews out there as we have had for the past 2.5 weeks. But we will get back at it, and we just hope that residents are very patient. We've had really good comments and many thanks. The crews are working as hard as they can. It's very difficult work. It's heavy work. We're trying to use machines to lessen the load on my personnel. And we felt it necessary to come up with a date that the free portion of the brush that's being dropped off at the transfer station ends. We have to get ready back to normal operations, which is running our scale, which we had shut down for a power issue, and then we couldn't maintain it to do bulky waste, which is an important part of our process there. We have 2 people, and one needed to stay in the machine for 8 hours to 10 hours a day to move the brush because it was coming in at such great volumes to maintain the pile. The pile is enormous. It's going to be a very large cost to get rid of that pile. We hope to get some funding to be able to offset that. I'm not sure how that will work out, but we need to, clean the brush up in town, give the residents the ability to, get rid of that debris and make their yards safe, their properties safe. So we're still picking up free. So we can get it at curbside. I know that there's a lot of individuals, not that many. We've gotten more compliments, I think, than concerns about that. We've had people already going over the scale, assuming that they need to start weighing now, but that's not the case. But by tomorrow, we're going to do that. And I think that will bring my operation at the transfer station back to somewhat of a normal state. We don't have extra people to put there as well as be able to do the work that we need to do in town. So I think that, we needed to come up with some time. We were taking an enormous amount of contractors that are working for our residents to help clean up as well. And they were coming in with dump trailers full of brush that, we've just allowed to bring in. And I mean, I would urge the selectmen to take a ride if you can and take a look at the pile that's there now, because there was no brush, absolutely no brush left before the storm. We were lucky enough to get the huge pile that was there ground and taken off the property 5 days before the storm. Otherwise, I don't know really where we would be putting this brush. So if there was anything that good came out of the storm, it was the fact that we were able to get rid of the brush prior to that. So everything that is at that facility right now is from the storm. And we're not even 50% into it yet. So it's a daunting task, and the guys are doing a great job. And I think that that's some of the decisions that we needed to make to move forward.
Hey, Bob, this is Ralph. I was wondering, what's your thought about what's an estimate of how much of a capacity you've hit on the second pile?
We hope to have the capacity, but I'm thinking an estimate of over $10,000 to remove it.
So do you think you have enough capacity to get through this year, or do we have to be worried about a third?
No, we have to grind this pile this fall. There's no way that we can just add on until next July or August is when we do it. There's no way that I'll have capacity to take this storm and then add our normal capacity onto that comes in on a daily basis throughout the year and have enough capacity to last. So we're looking to most likely get this done and come up with a certain time frame where I can get a vendor to come in and grind the pile and remove it.
Thanks.
Other questions? I did want to know what the selectmen would like to do. If you want us to change in relation to this question that's come forward and the extension of the free brush, or do you wish to stay with the recommendation that Public Works says, which is to continue with the curbside pickup, of course, of the brush, but in terms of the scale, start using the scale and the modest fee that's associated with it.
So Susan, this is Lou calling or speaking. It seemed as if people that have this sticker have received 2 free passes for a brush.
Yes.
So I think it would be indicative of ourselves to stick with what we planned and say that the scales are open. If people do bring brush in, then they can use their 1 or 2 passes depending on how many loads they have. And it still would be free. There would be no charge to anybody that would be bringing the brush. But I think that there's a time that we have to start operating as normal as possible, as Bob was saying.
Thank you, Lou. Anybody else?
Yeah, I was gonna say, my thoughts are similar. I think we've also been letting folks come in whether they have a sticker or not. I'm assuming we're gonna get back to normal where it's gonna require a sticker to come in. Especially keeping in mind that we are still doing the pickup at the curb. And that's really an extra pickup that would normally not have been done until next spring, I believe. So
Right.
that's being dedicated for storm.
And there is another pickup that is scheduled for spring of 2021.
Yep.
Any other thoughts? Do you want to take a vote on this, or by consensus, what would you like to do? The reason I bring this to you is it is a big deal. I mean, this brush is a big deal, and it is not free to get rid of this brush. Certainly people do pay their taxes, and that's the argument that many people will say. I pay taxes, it should be part of my annual tax bill. And my response is we're trying our best to make sure that everyone is charged fairly. Not everyone uses the transfer station. Many have, and it's a wonderful resource that we have, but I think this board has made the determination that you're trying to be fair in the way you charge, and If you have any change of thought in that, please let me know. But I want to make sure that we're meeting the will of our board as well as meeting the needs of our community.
Hey, this is Ralph. I would chime in that I would also support to trying to return back to the normal procedures that Bob is suggesting.
Is that a motion?
Sure, I'll make that motion that we, whatever has to be a motion to return the transfer station brush process back to back to using the scale.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Susan.
Okay, Lou. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you for that. And then I'll ask if April Graves is prepared or able to make a report on the racial equity, diversity, inclusion.
Susan, I got
Yes.
I got a text from April that says that she has a very limited service where she's at, so she probably wouldn't be able to make that statement today. Or
Oh, thanks,
report.
Mike.
Okay.
Okay. I did talk with April earlier this week, and the next item after public comment is going to be something that she has already talked to me about. So I thank her for calling in through you. So I'll open it up to public comment.
There is no public comment at this time.
Thank you, Kevin. So we'll go into old business, the racial equity, diversion, and inclusion. A very important topic. And I prepared for the selectmen and did put it in their email, a resolution that with your indulgence, I will read. It's a resolution creating the task force on solidarity. Whereas the Town of Portland Board of Selectmen passed a proclamation of solidarity on June 3, 2020. And whereas it has recently been suggested that the Board of Selectmen appoint a task force on solidarity. And whereas the task force on solidarity goals shall include, but not be limited to the following. Work with the following partners: Portland Youth Services Bureau, Board of Education, Police Department, and the youth of our town. Establish a program with these partners that will be committed to learning and expanding the understanding of racial equity in our community. Report to the Board of Selectmen at its regularly scheduled meeting on the third Wednesday of each month, and create with these partners at least 2 positive activities that would benefit the residents of Portland on or before June 3, 2021, which is just a year after our proclamation. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Selectmen, pursuant to Section 4055 of the Portland Charter, hereby creates the Task Force on Solidarity, and that will consist of 5 members, 5 regular members and 2 alternates. And be it further resolved that the task force shall adhere to all aspects of freedom of information law dealing with public agencies. And be it further resolved that the task force will function and continue in such time as the work called for in this resolution is completed, and at which time the task force shall notify the Board of Selectmen of their work, and the selectmen shall disband the task force. So this would create a group of 5 to 7 people that would review many of the things that we have already talked about. I know Mike Hernandez and Mike Pelton have been involved, as well as some of the rest of our selectmen and some of the groups that have been discussing racial equity, diversion, and inclusion. And I thought it was time for us to assign citizens to work with our community and come up with some, be it simple or more complicated, activities that exemplify and begin to put into practice some of the things that we have said in our community. So I'll open it up to the selectmen for your thoughts and comments and perhaps changes or additions to the resolution.
This is Ralph. I would just speak to say that I think it's appropriate because I don't think we could be successful in working through this without those particular groups working together. So I think it's the right mix of organizations to really make an effort in trying to work to a successful way to dealing with this and making sure that we address the needs of our residents with regards to it.
Thanks, Ralph. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think this is a good step forward. I think it engages the right partners. I think it keeps the conversation going and takes some provides a good mechanism to create some proactive steps and some proactive activities that can help further the discussion and the cause. So something I endorse.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody want to make the motion for adoption of the resolution?
I'd like to make that motion.
Mike, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it,
Second.
Susan.
Second by Mike Hernandez.
Yes.
Discussion? I want to point out that it would be 7 citizens that would be working with these partners, so that we have some good oversight by a blend of folks within our community working to make sure that our youth, as well as our police and other educators in our town are working together. And I think that if this passes tonight, then if the selectmen could give some thought to whom they would like to put on this task force, and if people want to volunteer, they could also send that to me and I'll share it with our board. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the resolution? Is aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. The motion carries. The next item is Reentry Committee. I want to discuss services and programs offered during COVID-19. I'm going to start with a simple one, and that is Town Hall. And then we're going to go to the library, and I know Janet Nochek has some very detailed information to share with us in a few minutes. In terms of the Town Hall, we have been operating since March 17th or thereabouts, with all of our staff working in the Town Hall, in Youth Services, Senior Center, as well as the Police Department. However, the public at large has not been coming in. What we have been doing is if it was necessary for someone to come in, they would, but for the most part, the weather has been very cooperative and we've been able to conduct business either by way of telephone, email, Zoom meetings, as well as meeting outside in the backyard of Town Hall. I've had actually several meetings on car tops, as well as on the shelf as you go out near the gardens, and been able to get papers signed. Grants have come in. I've had to sign them with our grant writer. And as I said, I've had meetings with people literally in the parking lot, and it seems to have worked well. Everyone has worn masks, has been very conscious of prevention of any type of disease spread, and knock on wood, it's been very successful within the general town government. However, after Labor Day, it's going to start to get inclement. We're going to start getting wind and rain. The length of the day is going to shorten. So I'm suggesting that after Labor Day, when folks need to access Town Hall, whether it's to get a gun permit or it is to come in and get some paper signed by the town clerk or in front of the town clerk, or whether they need to have an appointment with someone in Town Hall in the land use department, that we ask our customers to call ahead, make an appointment, and they could call 15 minutes ahead to 15 days, whatever is convenient for them. I think it would allow us to have one person for appointments, make any special accommodations we would need to make. All visitors would be required to wear a face covering or a mask while inside the building. And if they are unable to do so for a medical reason, they could certainly explain that to us. All visitors would have to use the hand sanitizing station as they enter the building, and they would need to maintain the social distancing that we have been practicing. As the person comes into the designated space, they would be greeted by someone from the department, and if it's appropriate, we have the old probate office on the first floor, that we have plenty of space in town hall that people could sit and still be socially distanced to conduct their business and be very handicapped accessible as well. So with those thoughts, I wanted you to think about that. It's something that I think could work, and open it up if there's any questions or comments on that.
I had one question, Susan. Most cases where you go into a doctor's or dentist, or most offices today, they take your temperature. Would that be a process that we would embrace as well?
It's something that we could do. We do have the mechanisms to do that. Bob Shea has those and has made those available. It's something we could add to the list. Yes.
Thank you.
You know, this disease, while its prevalence has been reduced in Connecticut to a great degree, it's still not gone. And with the advent of flu season, with the advent of more of us being indoors, I think we have to remain careful and vigilant. And yet, we still are going to conduct our business in the best way that we can, protecting our employees, protecting our customers, protecting our residents. But of course, we're here to serve, and we want to make sure that as we proceed, it meets with your okay and your input. So I appreciate the suggestion of taking the temperature slow. Something we can do. Anybody else? Anything you want to add or delete or comments? And if you agree with this, if I could have a motion to that effect and we can discuss it further.
Okay, Susan, I'll make a motion that the re-entry to town hall as listed, as you mentioned, with possibly the addition to the temperature as people are coming into the town hall, that those requirements are met before they enter the town hall.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Jim Tripp, further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. So now we'll move on to the Portland Library. Welcome, Janet Nocheck, Director.
Thank you, Susan. Yes, I know some of you probably had a chance to look at the plan that I sent out. Michelle Sapaglia sent it out to you. We've had different discussions with other librarians, with Susan, with the staff, and of course, we went through the self-certification listing of what we need to do, and we've done most of the things required, and the Public Works Department is still working to make sure we have the plexiglass, the shields that are the safety shields in front of our desks. So those things are all required. We would like to be opening just hopefully a bit before school opens, just so that we can make sure our processes are all as safe and workable as they need to be. Well, we might start getting more families or students in for some time after school, for instance. Well, some days they're at school, but and even the days they're working on their own. So those are some of the concerns. We thought that being open a few hours in the morning, having a break, Susan had suggested probably having a break for an hour or so in which we could clean, do some basics, making sure everything is sanitized before too much time goes by and that people kind of leave the building for a while. So we thought the hours were 10 to 1, 2 to 6 most days during the week. On Friday, we would close earlier to allow more tasks to be done and cleaning. And then Saturday, at this point, we would continue with what we've been doing, which has worked out well for many people with the, we call it curbside. It's not exactly a curb, but we go out to the parking lot with materials and hand it over to the cars, put it in people's cars without touching. We're wearing masks, and the people can call and let us know what they want, and we bring the books out. It's a little labor intensive, so hopefully it will go down a little bit when we start opening up so people can come in and more of them pick out their own materials, but that's okay. We'll try to continue that for people that don't feel comfortable coming into a building, you know, in the near future. So that's what's going on there. We've had to devise ways for people to enter and exit, to try to keep them separate. So we'll try having that be a little differently done there. So the staff has been talking a lot about how we'll handle things and going over that. Some training is required, and we've been doing that with the staff before we embark on this year. It is going to be very different because some people expect to come in and kind of spend a good length of time on a computer, maybe playing games and things for, you know, a few hours. And we're just going to have very brief computer sessions. We're going to try to keep them to 20 minutes at first, just and see how that goes. We just don't want people lingering, and we are only going to have a few computers open in the adult area, for instance, and none in the children's that can be, you know, used by various people. So they'll have to be cleaned in between the use, and we hope the patrons will comply and help us out there. I think it will work out pretty well, but it's going to be a little surprise to some of the people that want to maybe kind of, you know, it's not going to be as lenient, as liberal as it has been in terms of time and all of that. So it might be a big change for them there. We have to set up things right now with the signage and saying, here's where you will wait if you're waiting in line, and those kinds of things. So we'll have it, you know, being as safe as possible. One of the big things, of course, are the very popular children's area with the toys and nice seating. We have lovely new seats, but we're going to have to cover up a lot of them to keep the social distancing and all of that. So we're going to have none of the toys available that, you know, a lot of the children would share and play with. So it's a little bit sad, but obviously it's better to be safe with those kinds of things. And of course, people will be required when they come in. The staff will have masks covering the face, you know, pretty much of the face, just like we're supposed to do. And the people coming in will be required to have a face mask or some type of covering of the nose and mouth, except for the very, you know, underage too, or so is the requirement. So, you know, that's a lot of it. We don't want anyone lingering too long or, you know, kind of doing things like eating, which they sometimes sneak in. So we're hoping that, you know, we're encouraging brief visits. A lot of the libraries have opened that way. They just call it grab and go, and basically people just pick out their books and leave, I guess, and that's worked out pretty well. But we think it's time enough that we could handle some computer services, because some of the people really do need things. I mean, you're applying for unemployment, you have to keep checking your email, and if you can't do that from your home or from your workplace, they need that kind of service. So we're hoping we could, you know, we should be ready in another week or so, we think, depending on, I know Public Works got very busy. That got to be a delay. Do a couple more things for us, but we think we'll be able to be open probably August 31st at that point. Excuse me. Are there any questions or anything I should have covered?
What is the date of opening again, Jan?
August 31st.
Okay. And how will you publicize these plans?
I would have a summary. I have a list of the kinds of things the patrons should know when they're coming in. We'll put that in, I see Jack Lakowski is here. Maybe you can help me get that into River East. Had a nice chat with you the other day, Jack. Hi. And, we'll put them on the website, send them to the town website, the Facebook.
Good.
The emails, I think the schools will probably email for us. They usually will do messages for us to their, all of the parents. So that would be helpful if the parents understand it. That's one concern, is if children, sometimes people kind of leave their kids there for a few hours, which might not be the best because they won't be able to be doing some of the things they're used to. So unless they're really studious or, it's probably not an ideal thing. We don't want to encourage it at this point till we're further down the line, make sure it's all safe.
Other questions, Selectmen? Is there a motion to approve the recommendations by Janet in terms of the reopening plans for the library?
This is Ralph. I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Ralph. Is there a second?
This is Mike. I'll second it.
Thanks, Mike. Further discussion or questions?
Just one question, and I apologize if I missed it. I know that there's discussion about, just again, some of the limitations. Is there going to be a limitation on the amount of patrons that can enter the library at one time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I hadn't mentioned. No, I think we don't have to limit the number in the whole library, but what we would do, kind of a tentative list of, say, 5 people can be in the preschool area. If it starts getting crowded in one section, they won't be able to socially distance. I mean, we could probably handle 40 people in the building, but if 20 of them were in one area, it would be too crowded in that section. So we're going to try to get kind of guidelines that the staff will watch out that, if things are getting too tight, that we would ask people to kind of wait, ask somebody to kind of step aside. I don't think it will be a big problem, but it could certainly happen that people start to congregate a little bit. We have a few different areas. We have a new reading area. We're going to have the seating be limited, so I think that will help. Sometimes you get a couple of groups looking through the DVD collection. We'll just kind of say, folks, could you kind of wait a few minutes till this other group is done, but usually they're spaced apart. I think it's the same as in the stores. Most people will know to keep their distance, I hope. So that's a long-winded answer maybe, but yeah, we didn't go with a particular number for the whole building. We think that's something we could do. We could do that. I did have a chat with the fire marshal at one point, or with one of the assistants, and he said, with this building, there's so many exits that the capacity is very large. We would never really have the quarter capacity that is the guideline that the governor has come out with. That would be hundreds of people probably. So really, we didn't know what number to put as a max.
So really, the restrictions are going to be looking at specific areas and making sure that there's such a high density that social distancing can't be maintained.
Exactly. Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? Thank you, Janet. I know you did a lot of work on this. I think it's a good plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Janet.
All right. Thank you.
The next item is the Small Town Economic Assistance Program application. And I'm going to ask if Bob Shea is still available. Is he, Kevin? Bob, did you want to make some comments on our suggestion?
Yeah, hi again. We've been thinking about this and we're waiting for the STEEP grant to come out this year as far as the application process, which it's out now. There's been some changes that we're looking at. One of those is the amount of money that seems to be available for the STEEP grant this year, which has changed. And this is my first run at it. So we've tried to identify what we feel is one of the most critical challenges that we're having in town that would fall into the application process as a good candidate for funding. And that we've talked about since I've been here. I've been struggling with it since I've been here, and I think it's a critical infrastructure improvement that we need to make. It's our 8-inch asbestos cement water main pipe that is on Brownstone Avenue in the area of the sewer plant, which runs from Lower Main up to the valve in the area of the Chudzik property there, or the water wagon, I should say. It's about 1,100 feet of water main. I personally have been with crews in that area 6 times since I started in 2 years. We've had major interruption of water service, not only to the businesses that are located in that area, the ability for them to make it to their businesses as far as truck traffic. B&B is there, one of our large taxpayers, as well as others, Valley Oil. And we need to really make improvements to this water main. It is failing and much too often, and it's creating havoc not only on the road there, which takes a lot of commercial traffic, as well as residential traffic, and it is a gateway to the Brownstone Park there, as well, with parking down in the other area. And another critical, very critical infrastructure component is our sewer plant, which we lose water to, which we need water to process waste. And that creates an issue every time we have failures there. So I've been working for the 2 years with the board, the members of the board, our water and sewer subcommittee. And I think that with the great help of the finance director, Tom Robinson, we've spent an awful lot of time over the past 2 weeks and identified the ability to get this job done with the funding that would be available if it was awarded to us through STEEP. I believe that we've identified enough capital money that has been put in our budget for projects like this. We're very close, but we do have enough to get the project done if we are funded. Project will consist of relaying 1,100 feet of 12-inch main and not disturbing the asbestos in another area of the road we've already designed and we've gotten proposals for. So we're, if you want to say, shovel ready, which is a big part of the STEEP process. So we're lucky to be ahead on that. And we're looking to be able to finish the application and get that in. They extended it to the 28th, I believe, Susan, and I think we have till the end of next week, which was very gracious because of the storm. And I think that we'll be able to do that. So that's about the update. I think it's a very needed, critical change. We've spent, I don't know, 5 or 6 holidays out there. Christmas Eve was one of them this year. We've spent my first month here in town was the 4th of July. So we're spending an awful lot of time and money and resources making repairs to something that just needs to be fixed.
I'll open it up to the selectmen for questions.
Not necessarily a question, but I just a comment that through the Water and Sewer Subcommittee, this is an item that has come up repeatedly. It's a critical area. Given where it's located in a lower lying area, it's higher pressure. It's also an area that's, because of where the filling occurs, for our bulk water purchases, it's an area that experiences more stresses. This is a critically needed project. I believe that this takes care of the remaining, or basically at least we'll work around the remaining asbestos pipe that's down there that has been a problematic issue, as Bob said, 6 times in just the last couple of years. Hopefully this, in repairing this, will help with some of the lost water issues. You got to assume that something fully breaks, we're also losing water in other ways. And being in our business district, it would be nice not to have continued issues down there. So just from that perspective, this is an important project that I think we should look at going forward with.
I agree. I think you've done a nice job putting this all together, Bob. I want to thank our Water and Sewer Division personnel who work so hard along with our Highway Division and others to respond to the calls that come, as well as the maintenance of our systems. You know, we're very fortunate to have a water and sewer system in our town, and taking care of it is paramount. So is there an endorsement to apply for the STEEP grant for this purpose, which is the Brownstone Avenue Water Main Project?
I'll make a motion that we endorse applying for the STEEP grant for this purpose.
Thank you, Jim. Is there a second?
I'll second that. It's
Seconded by
Ralph.
Ralph. I wanted to point out that we estimate total project cost would be approximately $397,857.87. The requested STEEP funding of that amount would be $128,000, and the remaining amount of the $269,857.87 would be from the existing capital improvement planning money. And it's a requirement this time, as you know, that there be a match by the town to these projects funded by STEEP. So the motion's been made and seconded, right?
Yeah.
Any further questions? Or comments? Wishing us good luck. It is pretty competitive, but we certainly hope that we're successful. And Jeff Jacobson is also helping us with this project, our engineer, who's been with us from the beginning of a lot of these projects. So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. And thank you, Bob, very much. Good job. Appreciate your help on that.
Yeah, I can't thank you enough to try to move forward. It's be a huge benefit for your crews that are out in the middle of the night, your taxpayers that deserve uninterrupted water service, and you know, water that's in healthier pipes. So we have a lot of asbestos still in town to take care of. You have started that with High Street and Spring Street. Now this is just another part of the puzzle, and we probably have another 6,000 feet that you know, goes back to 1920, if not older. So we will continue to you know, look at those critical areas and continue to make improvements as money's available.
Thank you very much. The next item is letter D under old business for appointments to boards and commissions. I have none that have come to my office. Anybody else? If you would, for next time, keep in mind members for that task force. That'd be great. And if you have any questions on that, contact my office. New business, refunds of excess payments.
All right, I'll make a motion that we refund the amount of $67.80 to Emily M. McKinnon.
Second it.
Seconded by Ralph. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion that we refund the amount of $58.68 to Stephen F. McClellan and Maria McClellan.
Second it.
Seconded by Ralph. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
I'll make a motion that we refund the amount of $75.95 to Stephen F. McClellan and Maria McClellan.
Second it.
Seconded by Ralph. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And I'll make a motion that we refund the amount of $74.88 to Stephen F. McClellan.
Second it.
Second by Ralph. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And finally, I make a motion that we refund the amount of $165.68 to Janice L. Melnick.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Ralph. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Status and committee reports.
I have an
Ralph?
update. Couple things. One is that I would like to commend the ground crew, the town's ground crew, because and in the new park, there was a lot of heavy brush alongside the south side of the park. It was fell outside the construction area, the construction zone. And the team went in and really cleaned the area out very nicely along the fence. So it's really made it look really good. Cleaned it out, took it off the fences. It came out really good. So I know Bob jumped off, but I'll have to make sure, you know, and those guys are aware that we appreciate what they did. The second thing I would tell you is that they are in the midst of working on programming that the splash pad. They've been out there since Tuesday. They thought it would be about a 3-day effort, so hopefully they'll be completing it tomorrow. We'll have to see. But they're working hard and getting that up and running. There was one addition to the building, is that they put privacy screenings panels around the doors to the bathrooms. That was a recent addition. And all the plumbing work is completely done in the building. I've been in there, I've seen all the faucets running, so that's all done. It really comes down to the work they're done on the splash pad. And also I would note is, I don't know if I noted last time, trying to think of the timing, but Strickland is now fully open to Route 17. So that's all set. The last thing I would like to say is, and I know Jack, well, I think he jumped off, but Jack had done a nice article about the park opening in the paper in the River East. And, you know, it's kind of a strange situation. It was like a small, soft opening. It wasn't a big thing that we wanted to do, to have an opening. Hopefully we'll be able to do that in the spring, where we could have large events, you know, a large event there to have it truly be opened and really give us an opportunity to recognize, you know, a lot of people are part of the effort to build this park. From the selectmen who approved the purchase of the property, through the selectmen have supported the board, the Park and Rec Commission that supported, and all of the committee members for the committees that have existed that have been part of the park effort. So typically we would have had the opening and we would have recognized them all, because we would have had some sort of a ribbon cutting and everyone would have heard us all talk about noting the people that had done a great job in making this happen. What I'd like to do is put together a simple, just a simple editorial for the River East, just to call out and just call attention to the appreciation that we have for all of the groups and organizations and committees and commissions and boards that have been part of this effort. And I'd like to be able to put it and just list all of the Board of Selectmen members, just to say that we thank them for their effort. So I don't know what people think about that, but that's what I was thinking of doing.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We've had 3 committees working over, you know, 6 years, 7-year period. All of the foresight that went into purchasing the property and the different, basically just a long range vision just to get it to where it is. I think it's a good idea to make sure that we, you know, take an opportunity to recognize all of that work. You know, we can't do it now like we'd like to, and obviously we really wanted to be able to do that. We were looking forward to do that, to doing that, you know, after the road that we've all gone down. So at least taking an opportunity now that we're officially going to have, you know, these things done, I think that's a good opportunity. We should take that opportunity.
Anybody else?
Just a suggestion, Ralph, and when you're recognizing the people that are on these committees, you may want to recognize the groups that they're on rather than each person's name. The reason I say that is there's been past Board of Selectmen members that have been influential in making this happen as well. So I wouldn't want anybody to be missed, I wouldn't anybody's name to be missed if in fact, unless you can get all the names and you want to put all the names in the paper.
The names won't fit, so there is no choice there. It has to be in terms of groups, because There's
Okay,
just too many names. I
Yeah,
mean, they probably will appear on a plaque at when
Yeah.
we finally put together something out at the park, but for an editorial, we're not gonna hit that limit, so
all right.
they would strictly be groups.
And that's good. I think just to make sure that nobody feels left out, especially if you say the Board of Selectmen from 2008 or 2007 or whatever, that time on, I think that would be good. And as far as the different committees, just recognize the different committees.
Yep.
That's good. I think it's good to recognize people because they work hard.
Yep.
Anything
Okay,
else?
I'll put that together.
Okay, thank you. And if you could just share it so people see it, that would be good. Because
Yep.
sometimes River East calls you and asks you if you signed something. So you want to make sure that everybody takes a look. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else, Ralph?
No, we already covered the library, so I think we've covered the items that I'd be speaking to.
Thank you. Any other committee or status reports?
The only thing I was gonna, oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, I just had a couple of things to mention. One was about the park. I was there today and there were several people walking, people using the exercise machines and fitness area. Kids were in the playground and I saw that the splash pad was wet. So it looks like the people are working on it to make it work. All of these are great things. The fields look perfect. They're in great. They are the greenest area that there is this side of our golf courses, and so they're beautiful. They're being maintained, and I think that kudos to the commission for their hard work to make sure that this park is well used and well received by the town of the residents of town. So that's just one thing I was going to mention, and I want to thank Ralph and his committees for doing all their work to make sure that this park is the best it can be. The couple other things, and Kathy Heron was on earlier, we still have that census that we take on the trail, and there's an electronic census that has to be maintained every month. We check it to make sure it's working, and we connect with the University of Connecticut. Kathy was the last person that checked it a week or two ago. It's working well. I'll check it maybe in a couple of weeks to make sure it's working well. And we're seeing more and more people using the trail. So that's a good thing as well. Riz and several people, including the Public Works Department, kudos to Bob and his staff, Bill Flood, Bob Sequenzia, Rizzo. They took their chainsaws and they knocked out some of the trees that had fallen down on the trail to clear the trails. There's a couple of trees that fell on our kiosk, didn't do much damage. It's in pretty good shape, pretty sturdy. Bob and his staff removed that tree. And then there was another tree that did a little damage to those covers that the Eagle Scouts put together just recently. Will need a little bit of a repair, but I think that it's a minor repair and it'll be taken care of pretty easily. But I just wanted to thank those people that are volunteering and people that are working for the town that have made that trail clean and neat and welcoming to not only the people from town, but the people that are here visiting the town from out of town. The other thing I was going to mention, and I think you sent us something recently about the Wongunk Meadows and trying to think of a water access or a river access. We're still working with that. We're waiting for a approval from the National Data Diversity application that we put in about 5 or 6 weeks ago. Once we have that, we can, hopefully that's approved and we can go further. It looks like if in fact there was a river access, it would be a gravel road to the river. It would be a fairly simple entrance and exit to that river spot. Jeff Jacobson had looked at it and made some changes to the original boat launch. And I want to clarify the difference between a boat launch and river access. River access is basically not disturbing too much and just sliding the boat into the river and using the river. A boat launch is a little more complicated, where it has a ramp. It's usually concrete or it's asphalt. It has bollards. It has drive in and drive out. It's a little more complicated. And that was what was done several years ago. And the plans for that are on record. As far as the river access, we'll find out pretty soon whether we still can have a river access at that point. And if we can, we'll talk more about that in future meetings.
Thank you, Lou. I also want to echo what you said about our employees. Nate Strikars, who works as our grounds supervisor, both for the town and the Board of Education, along with Tommy Sankiewicz, Al Prince, and Timmy Oresco, and others, just do a great job for us. I see them every time I go out to our various locations, whether it's our buildings, our schools, our parks, as well as just general upkeep of our town. I think we look pretty good. And it's to not only their work, but I want to say they're pretty talented in knowing the right way to care for these grounds. And, you know, for many, many years, Carl Johnson was our ground supervisor, and he also laid a great foundation for our grounds. And it's important to recognize the work that's been done as well as the work that is currently being done. And I think that was your point a few minutes ago, Lou, when you said we don't want to leave people out, because there's been so many people that contribute to these major projects that the town has accomplished and is in still the process of making better. So thank you, all of our selectmen that volunteer your time, as well as our employees and everybody else. So nicely said, everybody. Jim, did you have some things?
Yeah, just really just two quick things. I just quickly, because it's been said a couple of times, I did want to say thank you to Bob, the crew, all the work that's been done by everybody that to kind of get the town, get the roads cleared, and all the effort that's been taken after the storm. It was a huge task. To that end, I know the hours and the pressures, and I've talked with Bob on that. I had indicated that we were going to, at the last meeting, that we were targeting to do a sidewalk committee, so we can take a look at the next sidewalks that we want to try to get in process. Given the storm and given the fact that some of the folks we needed in that meeting were working tremendous hours just to get everything else done, we pushed that off, but that will happen over the next couple of weeks. So that's all I had.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any general informal discussion tonight? I will say under follow-up that I am in the process of getting the finalized survey of the proposed land swap with the Exchange Club. As you know, as we proceed, we're going to have to, once we get the Schedule A, which describes that land swap, as well as the surveyed map, there'll be 4 selectmen that will meet on that. 3 of us will have to recuse ourselves from that. And therefore, as this information becomes available, I've asked Lou Pear to lead us on that because he's been working very closely on that. 3 of us are members of the Portland Exchange Club, so we're not able to vote on having a public hearing or anything of that nature. We're getting closer. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Lou.